Hello and welcome again to The Extra Point. I am Kendall Gammon, and today I am joined by my good friend, Gene Bicknell. Gene, first of all, thank you for having me down. We're in Florida, and just wonderful to see you again.
Well, it's always a pleasure, Kendall. You and I have been friends a long time. I watched you. I was on the sidelines when you won a national championship, and I was right with the team the whole way. And a lot of your teammates I still keep in touch with. So.
Right.
And I've certainly watched your career through the years and commend you for your success of 14 years, was it? And
believe it or not, I got 15. They didn't figure me out quick enough. I stole one from them.
I tell you what, you were an inspiration to all of us that went to Pittsburgh State.
Well, thank you. I'm humbled, and certainly coming from you, that's very nice. But I think people would say that more about you. I think there's so many different things we could talk about, but we've only got 5 hours, so no, I'm just kidding. But you know what? You said something that I'm going to dive right into, which is you talked about keeping in touch with some of the other folks. We've kept in touch. I believe life is about relationships. Tell me what you think about relationships, because I think this is a big one with you.
Well, obviously, and in my book, Never Fry Bacon in the Nude, on motivation, self-improvement, and social and personal improvement.
Right.
I feel that relationships are the whole keynote to business and your personal life. We talk about centers of influence, where people that want to see you succeed, agree with what you're trying to do, and are enduring in their friendship and support. There's not too many of those around, and so we should have to be appreciative of those that we do have that can help us. And you brought Miles with you today.
I did.
And I was so glad to see Miles, and he was I've written 4 books since my wife got ill, and a book I'd written about 25 years ago was the motivation book, and then now I've gotten into novels and some religious stories. But meeting Miles was an inspiration for me and a gift from you, so I appreciate that very much. And we were talking about relationships, and I have a publisher. I have an editor that used to be in New York, and then I have a couple of books that are with the publishers there now. But he mentioned a publisher to me that sounds like it would be helpful.
Interesting.
It might be two-way, but that's what relationships do.
You're exactly right. That's the thing. And we always say it, but it's the truth. It's a small world. I wouldn't want to paint it, but it's a small world. And I mean, it's just amazing. They always talk about Kevin Bacon and the 6 degrees of separation, but really it's 1 degree of separation. I mean, you're just one relationship away from knowing somebody else that can help make a difference in maybe your life, somebody else's life.
Well, the sad part is that most people don't appreciate what friends can do and what associates can do, and they get all tied up within themselves. And I know you're a celebrity, and I'm certainly not referring to you, but I think sometimes celebrities get carried away with their self-worth and their egos, and they think they can influence other people, and that's not the way it works. Associates or friendships like you're talking about, and relationships, that's about the person.
Right.
It's not about a subject or an issue. That's about the person. And I'm so blessed to have friends like you, and now Miles. I'll consider him a friend, a good friend. I'm so blessed by a number of people across my life, and I say so in my prayers every day that thank you for the blessings of my friends from the past, the friends now, and the friends I'll have in the future, because I hope there's going to continue to be more.
Right.
But to your point about relationships, in my business experience, I've had a lot of people who have contributed and influenced my behavior.
Right.
I've had several people that have taken a very stabilizing force in helping me learn. And I'm a strong believer in learner, and all the way from the Bible to history to patriotism, the whole thing about our country. And I'm concerned actually about our country, and everybody should be. But all in all, inspiration to me has come from my relationships. It's come from my centers of influence. A long time ago, I was an insurance salesman.
I know. Before you got involved with Pizza Hut, if I'm correct, is that?
You're absolutely correct.
Yes.
Before I got involved.
Was that New York Life or?
Yes, it was.
Yes.
And then I got involved with Pizza Hut. Then I got involved in the plastics business, and I got involved in the entertainment business. That was before all of this. And I still have a company in Nashville that distributes music, and
Okay.
and I have the theater and the recording studio in Branson, so I'm still involved in that part of the
Okay, I did not realize that. I knew you. I thought at one time you had a couple theaters, and maybe I was wrong with that. But you still have the one there at least.
Yeah, I
Right.
sold the one to the
Okay.
hospital.
Okay.
The other one I still have, and probably will sell that sometime in the
Well, right.
future. But no, my career has been full of people that have added to my success. But I believe that your associates and the people you work with are more instrumental than people realize.
Right.
You know, when I sold my company, NPC, my culture went with it.
Right.
And my culture was such that I treated my people fairly and well, and they used to say, well, we need to have a 6-day benefit. And I said, I don't believe in sick day benefits, but if any of our people are ever sick and they miss work, I want them paid. It doesn't have to be a regimented thing, but I just don't want anybody to miss their wages.
Right.
Well, my whole point now is I'm not talking about me, and I didn't intend to get into
No, I
stuff.
get it.
But the fact that my people that I worked with, and then nobody ever worked for me. Everybody
You work
worked
with
me.
yes.
But they may work for subsistence for their family or other reasons, but certainly not who their employer is. But anyway, they were the whole sole success of my business. I've been pretty fortunate, but it hasn't been me. It's been a lot of other good people.
Well, that's a very humble attitude, and I know it's the truth. And I think that's something you hear a lot, which is nobody does anything alone. I mean, even if they think they do, somebody has contributed in some way, shape, or form.
Absolutely. You know, I have a lot of black friends, as you do, because you play athletics.
Right.
You're going to be that, and I've never seen anyone
Right.
for their color,
Right.
and I don't believe in that. But I do believe that the respect for all humans is
Right.
important.
Yes.
And I had one of my black friends one time that I hadn't met. She was associated with one of the people in Washington. And she said, I looked you up. And I said, you did? And she said, yeah, they say you're nice to everybody. I said, well, don't always believe what you hear.
Right. That's funny. But you talk about that. Me and some of my former teammates have gotten together more recently because we've started to have some teammates pass. We're getting to this age to where we're realizing that we're not indestructible like we thought we were. And they're. I mean, really, it's black, it's white, it's Mexican. I mean, we're a hodgepodge, and I don't know if there's a better race relationship area than in a locker room of sports, because at least in my experience, 5 years in college, 15 in the NFL, it didn't just exist. So I think that's interesting that you bring that up.
Well, a lot of my teammates were of different colors. When I played, I didn't play pro, but anyway, I back at the times I played, of course, that was for a lot of the things today, and the athletes certainly weren't as big and
Right.
as powerful and fast and capable as they were today. But I was in the military, playing
Right.
football in the military, and one of the friends of mine, close friends, we worked together every day in another job. And he had a college degree, and it may have been a master's. It's too long ago for me to remember. But
Right.
he didn't know where he was going to look for employment because he was black, and there wasn't a lot of job opportunities. And I thought, how sad is that?
That's so wrong.
He said,
You're
I'll
exactly
probably
right.
have to be a teacher. And it just our society has progressed a long way.
It has.
And praise the Lord that they have, because now we don't look at somebody's race or religion or their background or their experience. I believe you treat everybody equal.
Right.
And now there is some genuine concern about those who expect something for nothing,
Right.
who are not willing to work. And if you don't have hard work ethic well, let me put it another way. If you have hard work ethic and you have determination and desire to succeed,
Right.
you can find a way to succeed.
I would
don't
agree.
care if it's not a big paying job, you can find a way to succeed.
Right.
So my challenge in life has been to help others. And
Right.
I got a nice email the other day from a lady who I'd mentored her son, and they used to come to my office. We'd go into the meeting room and the conference room, and I'd talk to her son and her for an hour or so or more on fairly frequent occasions.
Right.
Well, I got this email from her the other day saying that her son's name is Seth. And it says, Seth is now in Georgia. He's doing very well. He has a girlfriend from Germany that lives in Florida, and he's going to spend Christmas with her because she'll be alone. And you know, it just makes you smile to think that you've done something that might have helped a little bit in somebody's life, because Seth was pretty shy.
Uh-huh.
And so those kind of experience, they lighten your heart, but they also tell you what you're here on earth for, and that is to care about others and take care of your family and respect your law and order.
Well, that's a perfect segue into something that I want to talk about. It's a section of the program I called Make a Difference. I mean, what you're saying, what we've been talking about ultimately is I think we're here to make a difference, and I think we have to be careful. I'm curious what you think, but I think we have to be careful, number one, to make a difference and take care of ourselves first in a certain way before we can take care of others. Because as I say, you know, they say the oxygen mask drops. They don't tell you to put it on somebody else first, because otherwise you will run out of oxygen and you can't help for a while. And I'm curious your thoughts on that, because to me that just, I mean, there's the three most important words to me are I love you. After that, it's make a difference.
It's interesting you say that, because I grew up in a house that didn't have any spirituality in it. We were in poverty, and there were 7 of us children.
Okay.
And my father didn't make a lot of money as a miner. As a matter of fact, I was born in Pitcher, Oklahoma.
Pitcher, Oklahoma.
And that no longer exists.
Right.
They tried to remediate the soil.
Yeah, it's a super site, I believe.
And the government spent like $146 million trying to remediate the soil, and it was so ridiculous. It was just wasteful spending. So finally, and I was attending the meetings, and I made a documentary about it.
Oh, wow.
And so anyway, they decided finally that the EPA was going to have to buy the town out, and they did. And I was involved in that process. But I wasn't a resident of Oklahoma. Kansas has a town right on the border of Pitcher, Oklahoma. It's called Treese.
Yes.
And they're connected because they're both mining towns. It's just the borderline of the state that separates them.
Yeah, I think actually that's where the Crosslands are from Treese.
Right.
Yeah.
And the EPA then decided to buy Treese out.
Okay.
And I was the lead trustee to buy that out for the EPA. And I'm there again, and I don't want to talk about myself, but I got great accolades for the way that I handled it, and the other 4 trustees handled it, because we cared about the people that were being forced out of their home.
Yeah.
And their homes may not have been worth as much as that we should give them, because they have to resettle somewhere else. So I think what you referred to is the heart.
Yeah.
And it all stems from the heart. And the brain sometimes follows itself rather than the heart. So I think it's all of our obligations as Christians or Jews or Muslims or whatever religion.
Right.
I think we have an obligation while we're on earth to do as much good as we can for our fellow man. And of course, today, because of today's political correctness, I'll say men and women rather than just
Right,
man.
yeah, but it's assumed. You're right, and that's interesting because I've heard it said that I mean there are so many different religions, but as I've heard it said, whatever the religion is that you believe in, practice it, because there is one general concept, which is it calls us to be better human beings. And I think that's very, very right.
And I believe the afterlife is a factor as well.
Yeah.
But all in all, you and I have had blessed lives,
We've been fortunate.
and we have a lot of friends.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody told me one time, if you have 5 friends in your life that would be there at your beck and call,
Yep.
you're wealthy.
Yes.
And we have a lot of associates and a lot of acquaintances,
Right.
but having a real friend,
Yeah, that COI, as you
Good
said earlier,
Miles or
that's very big.
any other references, that's because you're willing to give whatever you need to give
Right.
to help them in a time of need.
Yep.
And it's like I say, in any association, whether it's a friend or an acquaintance or whatever, if you're not trying to understand the other person's needs and be helpful, then there's something missing.
Right. I would agree. It's so important. We could talk about that forever. So I'm going to say 3 words, and I want to get your reaction to it. Well, and 3 others probably, but 1, Pittsburgh State University, and another one is Southeast Kansas. When you think of those 2, and they kind of go hand in hand, I know it's a lot, but what comes to mind?
Well, obviously, Pittsburgh State has been a major thought in my mind since I started there, and many, many years ago. And here's an interesting story. They offered me a scholarship,
Okay, I did not know that.
and I thought that it was charity. And coming from a proud, humble,
Right.
poor family,
Right.
I thought we were taught you have to make your own way. So I turned it down
Wow.
and had no idea what they were. I was young and I didn't even know what, if you're invited to a wedding, you're supposed to take a gift. I never heard of anything.
Right.
But I turned it down. I said, I can do my own way. I was proud. I was taught that if you want something, you got to work for
You
it.
go work for it. Yes.
So I go back to that, and then I look today that, I've been very active in the scholarship drives. I've led several very successful drives for Pittsburgh State. I've had a personal relationship with every president.
Right.
And Dr. Steve Scott now is a special friend of mine. Before him, I was on the committee that selected the former presidents, and on some of them. And then, Reese Hughes, this is before your time.
It is, but I recognize the name because of the buildings.
Reese Hughes, I was just 16 years old when I started. But,
Wow.
Reese Hughes was the president, and I didn't know him that well until along toward the end of his tenure. And apparently, for some reason, he asked me to chair. He ran for the state legislature, and he asked me to chair his campaign. And I did every year that he ran. And so I got a better insight to Reese Hughes. And then the ones that have followed, I've been in contact with them. And you'll find this interesting, that one of the presidents and I were having a discussion and talking about sports, because I thought the university needed sports for a lot of reasons, marketing and so forth. As you well know, you're part of it.
Yes, certainly.
But I was in the president's office and I said, you really need to think about this athletic thing, because I'll give you an example. Your son just graduated magna cum laude from another school. And there was an article in the paper, it was about 2.5 inches long. And I said, Pittsburgh State in sports has an announcement for winning a conference or whatever, and it's a front page, almost a full front page. So that's the best example I can give you.
Interesting, yes.
So anyway, that was one of the past, but Dr. Don Wilson.
Remember him well.
Well, I was the one that negotiated his departure with the Board of Regents. And it was a sad situation because I'm not defending him.
Right.
I'm just saying he did so much good for our university.
Right.
And it's sad that his name isn't recorded somewhere, but that's just the way it works.
Right.
And of course, I'm not, again, defending his actions, but I think sometimes we get a little overzealous.
Well, yeah, and well, it comes to mind to me, Tony Robbins has a saying, he says, if you're going to blame somebody for all the bad things they've done, you need to blame them for the good things they've done as well.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
but that's not happening.
No, yeah, well, and it's...
Unfortunately, it's not human behavior.
Right, well, you're exactly right, but that's probably one that we could talk about for a while also, so to say the least. Okay, I want to keep going with this. You've done a lot for so many different people, so many different organizations, and I know you're very humble about that. But something that really comes to mind for me is Bicknell Center for Performing Arts. You've got a love for the arts. You've acted, you've directed, you've produced, you've written books. That facility, it's phenomenal. We were fortunate enough, I know you know, but a few years back we had a fundraiser for Ronald McDonald House, and we had songwriters come in for a night, kind of like Tin Pan South in Nashville, and it was just unbelievable. And what I thought was nice about it also was, I mean, you had Lori McKenna, who's written for every major star, been the CMA Country Music Writer of the Year a couple of years. Luke Laird has over 30 #1 hits. Barry Dean, a local boy who's had #1 hits. Jennifer Schott, a local, I think her maybe mom and dad were professors at the university, but at least one, I think. They come to this facility and they were blown away. I mean, it is top notch. There has to be tremendous pride.
I knew Barry and Schott both very well. And I remember talking to them when they first left Pittsburgh. And Jennifer Schott came back once, and quite a fantastic young lady. And
Yes.
Barry is very talented.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of people graduate from Pittsburgh State that have done well.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and then two writers from Pittsburgh, Kansas in general, getting out to Nashville, I think is amazing. But just you know that facility and what it offers, I've always mentioned to the fact of it raises the possibility of a quality of life in Pittsburgh, Kansas. Not that there was anything bad beforehand, it just accentuates it because there's so much more available, I think. Can you speak on that?
Oh, sure. You know, there had not been a performing arts center at Pittsburgh State since they closed the facility over where the old chemical and
McCrae Hall in
civics,
that area, probably.
McCrae Hall.
Right.
And that was where the stage productions were before. As a matter of fact, I performed on that stage when I was at the university.
Oh, okay.
And there hadn't been another center for the arts.
Right.
And I knew that was something that was missing. It was on my bucket list.
Yes.
As well as athletics, you know, that's on my bucket list. And I happen to be one of those individuals that like the arts and like sports as well.
Yeah.
So anyway, my experience in theaters and productions, in movies, and I've done quite a few stage productions,
Right.
big ones. And so I knew a little bit how a theater had to be combined, because my theater in Branson is probably the finest theater in the whole country.
Really? That doesn't
And of
surprise
course
me.
it's
That's
in
awesome.
An area where COVID and other reasons it's not,
Not
being
right
used
now.
as much. But so I was involved with the president and the architects. I'll tell you a funny story about that. I was there because I know you need a wide stage and a high loft so you can store
Yes.
sets and lofts. And I know that you need side areas so you can hold people getting ready to go on stage or change costumes.
Right.
And I knew you needed a costumes room. I knew you needed a freight entry and effort for sets and designs. I knew you needed storage areas. I knew all the elements that were make it very efficient and also cover the needs of the whole process.
Right.
So that working with the architects was, Reed and I sat with them frequently when
Right.
they were going through the plans. And I kept telling them, they were telling me it was going to cost $300 and some a square foot to build, and I kept saying, that's way too high. It can be built for less than that, and I kept arguing with them.
Right.
One of the architectural firms quit, and another one came on board.
Oh, really? Interesting.
And I think it was their choice, not ours.
Right.
But anyway, after the fact, I had to eat a little bit of
Oh, cry a little bit of crow.
eat a lot of those words because the cost was there. But that's right after Joplin had its
Right.
tornado. And so anyway, I swallowed the problem, and I addressed it, and I apologized. But they were closer to the number than I was.
Interesting. Interesting. You know what? So that brings up something that I thought about, which I think is very, very important. Not just as human beings or as leaders, but just mankind, which is, oftentimes we think we've got a good assessment of the situation, and we know what's going on, and we find out we didn't. Maybe the way we were looking at it did make sense, but as we look at it again, we're like, you know what, we were wrong. I think that's one of the greatest things a person can do, is have the ability to admit that they made a mistake or that they are wrong.
It's a very hard pill to swallow. Some people just won't do it.
Right.
Some people will stand up and declare, and if you challenge them on it, they'll give you an example that isn't even commonsensical. I don't know if I ever told you or not, but common sense died.
Well, we're trying to revive it, but you're right. It's like they say. I mean, if you go, if you continually run east as hard as you can, looking for the sunset, well, it doesn't matter how hard you try, you're not going to find it. So, I think humility is a big thing. I mean, I wish I could say I didn't have to use it so much, but I have, because I've been wrong so many times in my life.
I remember when my kids were young, and people were starting to talk about what I was doing. And the kids would come home and they'd say, Dad, how much money do you make? And I always said, I'd pick out their closest friend's father. And I'd say, oh, about the same as Mr. Ornder. That was always my exchange. And Kendall, to this day, I've never, ever mentioned net worth or assets or anything. It was not important to me.
Right.
I was just telling Miles a little bit ago that people used to ask me what motivated me, and I said, it was never a desire to be rich.
Right.
It was a fear of being poor.
Interesting.
When I grew up,
Yeah.
we didn't have anything. I mean, we weren't even living I never lived in a rented house. I mean, a painted house.
Wow.
I never lived in a painted house till after I was married.
Interesting.
And I lived in a house that was full of rats one time.
Wow.
And so we were taught very young how to succeed in life.
Right.
To get your buttons off that chair and go to work.
Yeah.
I used to laugh at Rita because she would be talking to guys that were working around the house, and one of them came with the house. He's been working at this house since we bought it 31 years ago.
Right.
Still does today on a lower schedule basis. And I got tickled at her. She said, David, get your big boy pants on and go do it.
Right.
So now today, since she's gone, every time something looks challenging, I say, Gene, put your big boy pants on and do it.
Yep. That's right. Though sometimes our mind, you talked about our mind does some different things. Sometimes it's hard with our mind. If you just get the body up and get it moving, the mind ends up following a little bit later. Or at least that's how I've handled it a little bit. So you brought up, you brought up wealth, but you've done well. You shouldn't shy away from that. I know you don't. You built a lot of different companies, a lot of different things. Certainly Pizza Hut is one of those. And I bring that up for a couple different reasons. I think that's something that a lot of people do realize. And then also I had the good fortune in the golf tournaments you had there in Pittsburgh State to raise funds for the hospital and for Pitt State athletics. I played golf a couple times with your first banker out of Girard, I think. And then also with Gordon Elliott, who worked with you a little bit. And one thing that they both talked about was they always talked about your vision and you seeing things so big. They felt like they were looking at the big picture, but they mentioned you were always looking at a much bigger picture.
Well, I guess I'm blessed in that regard because, I'm a very spiritual guy, and I'm very committed to living your life under God's laws.
Right.
And a couple of my books explain that. But people don't really understand the Maker that well. And in my books, I try to unravel what their perception is based on what God really is like.
Right.
And so I won't get into a religious theme here, but I'm just saying that those revelations
Right.
Also inspire your life.
Okay.
And if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. And I always envisioned, as a matter of fact, I never reached my goals. Never have.
Interesting.
But I always envisioned what I thought could be done. And after some of the companies I sold, they have gone on and done what my vision was, but I wasn't a part of it, and that was disappointing to a degree. But who cares, because
Wow.
I don't need anything. They don't want
Right.
anything. I'm very blessed to have a very comfortable life,
Yes.
but I'm also very blessed with the charities that we can help.
Right.
Our family foundation, charitable foundation, we renamed it. And the name of it is 1248. There's a cap over there with that on insignia.
I saw that. I didn't know what it meant. So I'm about to find
1248
out.
is Luke 12:48. To those who have much been given,
Oh, wow.
much is expected. And so that's the name of our foundation. And my family all buys into it. Marty, my son that runs his own company and runs what's left of ours,
Right.
some of his people or himself, I don't know who, somebody came up with that idea of changing the name of it from Bicknell Charitable Foundation to 1248, and I loved it.
Right.
And I quote scripture quite often, and sometimes in the wrong presence, but
Right.
I don't back off.
Right.
And most of my friends expect it, that they know me well enough to know that, I'm not zealot, and,
Right.
and I'll have my wine and I'll have my drink and enjoy that. But as far as personal character items, I'm very strong on those.
Well, you're telling me also that you're going to be who you are, which is, as they say, you might as well be yourself because everybody else is all taken, right?
I like that.
Well, I read it. Trust me, I didn't come up with it. In my mind, I believe everything's been said. It's just how you say it, and can you say it in a way, in a fashion that helps others remember it to help themselves.
Well, this country is in such a crisis right now, and I never dreamed I'd live to this day. And of course, at my age, I'm not really concerned about it, but personally.
Right.
But I certainly worry about my children and grandchildren and what's transpiring because
Right.
I also believe that truth is one of the valuable assets of being a person. And when you get to the point where you can't accept truth,
Right.
or you don't look to find out what the truth is,
Right.
then I believe you're hurting yourself.
Yes.
And not only that, but if you hurt yourself, you can hurt others. But an example is anger. If you get angry, the only person that gets hurt from it is yourself.
Yes.
Because the other people sometimes don't know if you're angry, and sometimes don't care if you're angry.
Yeah.
But you're eaten up with anger.
Right.
And it's so sad and so unfortunate that people put themselves in a position where they can destruct their own way of life and their own enjoyment of life. You don't always approve of what your children do, but they're always your children.
Right.
So I think our challenge as human beings is to set the example.
Right.
And if somebody gets angry at you and calls you a bad name or accuses you of something, don't get angry about it. Just consider the source or
Yeah.
say, or I'll pray for you.
Well, which is basically showing some grace and mercy. And
Exactly.
I've got one friend. He has a saying which I love. Which I think sometimes when things don't go our way and we get angry, we put ourselves at the center of the story. Whereas you said they're thinking about something else, and this is what he says all the time, which is don't worry about what people think about you because they don't think about you. I mean, they've got their own life going as well. And as you said, the only person that's really hurting is the one who is harboring the anger inside them.
To another point, I would say to people who are trying to use unscrupuled ways to be successful, that I tell them it doesn't make any difference what level of success you have or how many people you influence while you're living. The only people that's going to remember you is your family after you're gone 10 years.
Yes, you're exactly right.
So being a celebrity means nothing because I have a lot of very close friends that are celebrities. I mean, big stars.
Yeah.
And, I'm not saying look
No, I
who
understand.
I know, but many of them are very good friends of mine. And most of them are humble.
Right.
But unfortunately, they were stars years ago. And stars years ago aren't stars today.
Right.
A lot of the kids, one of my close friends who is a top-notch celebrity and was really number one on the charts when he was younger, and we were going to dinner, and we sat us down, this was years ago, they sat us down in the booth, and I asked the young waitress, I said, "Do you know who such and such is?" She says, "No," and that was him sitting with him.
Oh, wow.
So it was kind of a joke on him, but it was kind of sad at the same time.
Right, exactly right. Well, I mean, again, as a star, I think it's very difficult. I would think it's very difficult to stay relevant decade after decade. I mean, trends come and go.
You're an example.
Well, you're exactly right. Yeah, as I said, I had my 15 years of fame, and it's done. I mean, other people are on the field. I remember Coach Ditka used to talk about it. Herm Edwards talk about it. Actually, Coach Cower and Vermeil would talk about it also, which was, for us in football, we're playing. One thing they said was the money will come and go, but the relationships are there. And the other thing, too, they said was, you're not more important than the game. You're not more important than the shield. And I know that's kind of a microcosm, but it's a little bit about what we're talking about, which is you have your moment, but as you said, it's your center of influence, your friends, your family that ultimately are the important thing.
Right, and how you handle that success, and the examples you said, take yourself as an example. You've always been a humble guy. You've always been willing to shake hands with anybody or give an autograph or whatever. And you've always been down to earth, and when people are around you, they're very comfortable because you put people at ease. And, and I know people that haven't had as much success as you have that think their self-esteem is so important that they as an example, somebody asks them for an autograph, they'll say, "Just get away."
I can't imagine.
I don't know if you ever went down to Mickey Mantle's tournament, but I told Mickey I'd play in it every year, and I think I did.
Wow.
And a lot of my friends there, Hank Bauer from the Yankees, and he had all Yogi Berra and all the big guys from the Yankees, and then he had a lot of the Heisman Trophy. I played in a celebrity tournament with the Heisman Trophy winners too.
Very neat.
And it was interesting to me because of how Billy Vessels, who is a Heisman Trophy winner from Oklahoma, he was on an opposite team when I was in the military. But he was at the tournament, and I tried to talk to Billy, and he was all inside himself. He didn't really want to have, and this is not a negative response,
right?
But he just was more comfortable being left alone.
Okay.
And some people are that way, but you take Peyton Manning as an example, who my son plays with in Cabo.
Okay.
Peyton is I've never met Peyton, but I know Archie's dad pretty well.
Yeah, I know Archie as well, yeah.
And Archie was a tremendous individual. If he had an offensive line, he would have been a great
Well, that was why he was so vigilant in making sure his kids got to a team that was decent.
Exactly. You get exactly right. And I always felt bad for Archie. But what a great human being. And anyway, his sons are just like him. So he set the example.
Right.
And that's our purpose in life, is to set an example to be followed for not only your family and friends, but for those with whom you can influence.
Right. I've always said, and of course I didn't coin it, but I love it, which is if you treat people like they matter, well, then they do matter, and this world becomes a little bit better place. And ultimately, that's kind of the theme of what we're talking about: is how do you treat people? How do you deal with people?
Yeah, just like the Kansas City's quarterback now. This Patrick Mahomes. My son has played golf with him, and he talks about how mature he is for a 25-year-old and how unaffected he is. But I think a lot of that credit goes to his mother and father.
I would agree with that.
And I don't know them. I've never met Patrick, but from what I understand, he had a great home life and was reared in the proper way. You were reared in the proper way. I was reared in a proper way.
Right.
And I think that influence carries over. And none of us, neither one of us or anyone else that we know that's close to us, has ever expected more than they earned.
Right. Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
If we had it all to do over, Kendall, what would you do?
Well, I'd do it again. And, you might change a few things, but I don't know. I was going to ask you that, which comes to the point of, do you have any regrets? Certainly, I have some regrets in how I've acted and at times. And you talked about me being humble and whatnot, but I've had times in my life where I just got a little bit full of myself and I made some mistakes and did some things I shouldn't have done. So, I guess that would be kind of the answer.
Well, I'm exactly the same way. I've done some things I wish I could do over. A lot of the dreams I had didn't happen, but sometimes you shoot for the moon and you might miss but land on a star.
Exactly right.
And I know you lost your father this year. That's been a tough loss.
Well, I appreciate
You've been through some tough times, and so 2020 has not been a great year for very many people.
Well, and I mean, I didn't know how you wanted to go into it, but I mean, you've obviously lost someone as well, which has been very difficult, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I lost my rock. I lost the woman who I leaned on now for
I think 33
years.
Yes.
And it's tough. But, we went through 3 bouts of cancer, and that happens. But the point I'm bringing up, it's not what we've done that we would do over, and it's not what we've done with our lives. It's what are we going to do with the rest of our life.
Agreed.
And so, we always have that opportunity, and God gives us that opportunity to where we can always repent and no matter what our background is, and go forward and try to do a better job the second time around or the rest of the time.
Right.
So I have a strong belief that your personal character is something that's given to you through your associations, through your family, your inheritance, through your friends, through your actions, through your careers. All of those factors are influential.
Right.
But we're always on the edge of making decisions as we go forward.
Right.
And so we have to have some stability in our thinking to realize what's going to transpire, what opportunities are going to surface, what our purposes are, what our objectives are, what our mission is, and what we want to accomplish. And I think that your podcast here has an opportunity. I haven't gotten to see some of them because I don't have internet here. On this island, there's no high-speed internet.
Well, but some of that, I was about to say, good for you. I mean, seriously, to a degree, which is you get away from things and you got to think, that probably has its good and its bad.
I'd like to keep up with current things, and I like to hear about my friends. I like to see what's going on at Pitt State. Pitt State has been a very rare experience for all of us. I started out at Pitt State when it was a small school. It's still not big, but it's 77,000 or 7,000 something students. So what I'm talking about is change.
Right.
So historically, Pitt State has changed. Now we have people like Miles that is stepping forward, making it happen. And Pitt State's growth and what's transpired in the last 20 years hasn't come from the state funds.
No, you're right.
The money's come from individuals who care, and people in the community that care about the university.
Right.
So what we find is that we have to decide where our opportunity is.
Right.
And that's what Pitt State has done through you and through Kathleen Flannery and many others at the university, Ellen Carter and so forth.
Yes.
And then I didn't mention the president and the vice presidents and the other people that contribute and the people in the athletic department and all of that. It's all been a good mixture
Right.
of success.
Yep.
For a small university to have what it has, it's amazing to me.
It's a special place.
Well, I had the president of a university that was very close by. Years ago asked me to come over and meet with them because they wanted to know how to get their community as involved with their university as Pittsburgh State is with its community.
That is a great compliment.
And then, just recently, the president of that same university has asked me to come over. This is a new president. He's asked me to come over and meet with him on it too.
Interesting.
I don't know the answer. All I know is that the university and Pittsburgh State and the community of Pittsburgh, they're like one and the same. It's like one big family.
It really is. It is two hands that join together and understand that they need each other, I think, which I think is very, very important.
More than today than ever.
I would agree with that. So we've been talking a while, and we could go on for hours, quite honestly. I don't want to keep too much. Plus, hey, folks, we've got to eat at some point in time, and we're going to go for lunch here in a little bit. But power of gratitude. I believe gratitude, showing it, being thankful in your life is so very important. When I say those words to you, what, who, how comes to mind?
Let me give you a good example. I've done a lot of interviews with the Wounded Warriors. We took a group of entertainers in 2009 to the Middle East to entertain the troops. I set that up with American Airlines on the tarmac in Fort Worth when we were shipping some Wounded Warriors to Orlando for a vacation and also recovery. So we took those over there, and as a result of that, I met the first quadruple amputee ever that lived. I met him in Germany. It happened on Easter in April of 2009. And I was in his room 2 days after it happened, and his mother had been flown over. And so I got involved with the Wounded Warriors. And I've done entertainment shows for them. My point is, I interviewed a lot of the Wounded Warriors that were totally incapacitated. And I had a series of interviews, hour-long interviews. And first of all, I became very irritated with the Veterans Affairs people because they weren't taking care of them properly, I didn't think. But the point is that I interviewed every one of them. At the end of the interview, I said to them, would you do it again? Now, these are people who lost a leg or had brain injuries or limbs or whatever. All of them were going through struggling times. And every one of them, without exception, said, yes, I'd do it again.
Wow.
Now that's powerful.
Yeah.
One of the young men I interviewed, he had been in an explosion, and he still had shrapnel in his body, a lot of it.
Wow.
And he was on the 6th floor of the hospital, and they were taking him down to the basement to do an MRI. And it took him from the 6th floor all the way down to the basement before he could tell them that he had shrapnel. If they would have gone to that MRI machine, which is a magnet, would have killed him.
Wow.
So, you know, it's just stories like that go on and on. And the people, but I was so taken back by the fact that they said, yes, I'd do it again. Even in that condition, they would still defend their country.
Right.
So they're being a patriot. And today we don't have patriots.
Right.
Today we have no patriots out there to speak of. There's a few. But those people who gave their normal life to this country say they'd do it again.
That's definitely something to be grateful for, no doubt about it.
Well, it's sad,
Yeah.
but it's true.
Yeah.
And some of them said, yeah, I wish I could go back and join my unit. So they have such a close camaraderie with their fellow soldiers or sailors or whatever. That camaraderie is kind of like in sports with you.
Right.
The people you play sports with, you'll remember. I was at an 50th anniversary of a friend of mine one time, and sitting around with some of the guys I'd played sports with. And we're sitting there telling stories, as you always do, and
Right.
you know yourself. He said, it happened. And I looked at everybody and I said, this is so unusual. I said, you can't remember your wife's birthday, you can't remember your anniversary, you can't remember your kid's birthday, but you can remember everything that happened on that field 50 years ago.
That's funny. It's funny how anchors are developed in our life, and in certain things we are just a little bit easier.
Character is built through sports.
Yeah, I would agree.
Friendships are built through sports. You may never see them.
Right.
Yeah. I used to get emails from people I hadn't seen in 30 years. Find it somewhere. It's just interesting that the human being is so involved within itself, outside itself, and into other associates.
Right.
Family, whatever. You can't distinguish a lot of those things.
No.
You don't know what a person's made up of.
Right.
And when you get to know them, that gets back to the point of having a very close friends,
You're right.
or a slight number when you start to add them up.
Well, and that's the thing. We've come full circle, and we just got back to what it's about, which is relationships.
Right.
And I want to personally thank you for my relationship that I've had with you over the years and will continue to have. And it was just a pleasure having you on.
I got out of our relationship, I got more out of it than you did.
Well, I appreciate it. We'll agree to disagree that we both think the other one got more, but that's okay. Well, thank you, Gene. Well, I'm Kendall Gammon. This has been The Extra Point, and again, I've been joined by my good friend Gene Bicknell. I'm telling you right now, be thankful, make a difference, have a great day.
Amen.